the Long Shot Podcast. Pew, 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 pew. I am one of your hosts, Amber Kenny, alongside your other host, Sean Conroy.
How do you do? Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I am, I'm here. I'm in my dining room and the blinds are behind me. I don't know if you can see that there's blinds behind me. They seem to be slightly askew in a couple of places where there's light coming through. I have a lot going on, and I'm excited to be here and talk about what's going on in life these days.
Okay. Do you feel like the blinds are somehow representative of where you are in life right now?
Yes. The blinds are a metaphor because they've been here the whole time.
Right.
Yet I've chosen never to speak about them before. Mm-hmm. And now I'm speaking about them for no reason, except I do see them behind me.
Right. Well,
and I'm like, it looks like there is one that's slightly out of place or something. You know,
it's daylight savings now, so it's light out at this time, and
it's coming through.
A few weeks ago, it would have been dark, and it would have been harder to see those.
Unless it was one of the days we recorded on a Sunday morning.
Right.
Then it would have been light.
Right.
But you're right. It is daylight savings. So it's lighter than it's been in a while at 7:07 p.m. on March 24th, which is when we're recording this. I don't know if people are always aware of the date line.
Is this your alibi? Like, what's going on?
Your Honor, I would like to play Exhibit A from a podcast that has been recorded for the last 79 years. And,
objection. Just because he says the time doesn't mean that it's proof that it is the time.
Well, I have a digital expert here who will verify that my client states the time and date at the same time and date that is stamped on the digitized tape. Can we take a recess, Your Honor? Yeah, if I commit a crime, people will know where I was when I didn't do it.
Right. And it's quite warm. This is the most boring conversation.
Well, I'll tell you, I would not know if it was warm or not outside because I have never left the house, and I accidentally left my air conditioning on all night last night. So when I woke up this morning, it was still on, and I have not turned it off because it felt like, like when the AC is on in here and it's cool outside, it doesn't stay on. You know how air conditioning works, central air. Like it goes on when it gets warm, and it goes off when it's the right temperature. So if it's cool outside, the AC goes off because it doesn't need to be working the whole time, but it stayed on all day. So I was like, I might as well just leave it on.
Hot out.
Yeah, hot outside.
Could you walk me through how air conditioners work one more time?
Well, I don't have a firm grasp on it, but my understanding is there's like a little bucket of ice that sits inside the wall.
A bunch of elves.
And then there's a fan that goes around and blows over the bucket of ice, and that cool air comes out, and all of a sudden you're in the ice age.
I guess I was being feisty, but I truly don't know how air conditioners work.
It has to do with refrigeration and gases and some fucking thing that's in my wall that leaked last year and cost me thousands of dollars to fix and repair my neighbor's apartment. So I prefer not to think about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Glad I brought it up.
Yeah. Let's see. What else can we talk about that's going to make me upset?
I can think of lots of things.
That's true. Well, then let's get into, before we even do checking in. I mean, I feel like we talk about this stuff sometimes. So tell me what your thoughts are on this whole political stuff that's going on right now with the hearings in the Senate about the new Supreme Court nominee and whether or not she is going to be placed on the bench. If you've seen any of that, I don't know if you've paid any attention to it.
A spectacular, shining, just clear as day example of racism in America.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels like certain people, Republicans mainly, are putting her through the ringer in a way that it's just like it's offensive. It's insulting.
I agree. Do you think that would have happened no matter who the Democratic nominee was? Like, yes, I don't disagree that there's racism involved, but
I think there's like a fun new flavor.
There's a bonus.
Yeah.
Right.
There's frosting on top.
She's a black lady, so there's more to it than just we hate you because you're a Democrat. It's we hate you because you're a Democrat and because you're not supposed to have a voice and all the stuff that goes on.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. When Ted Cruz asked her if he could be an Asian man, like, what are you doing?
What is he, Peter Sellers remaking The Party?
He wishes. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Yeah, it's bad. What are your thoughts?
I have some. I guess one thing that I really think about, it's so bothersome on so many levels, but one thing that really bothers me is how disingenuous it is. In other words, I look at Ted Cruz and I look at Josh Hawley and I look at Tom Cotton. They are smart guys.
Mm. And they know what judges rule on and
right.
Like, and they're asking like, what is science? Like that is not what a judge does.
But I guess what I'm saying is like, there are people, if you met them in real life, you'd be like, the guy is like borderline a genius, you know? And which means they know how untrue everything they're saying is. They're not stupid. They don't believe what they're actually saying. Josh Hawley doesn't really think that Ketanji Brown Jackson is in favor of pedophilia. He doesn't believe that.
In favor of pedophilia.
He knows that is a way to smear her in a way that his base will respond to by being very emotional and very upset by it, because his base despises pedophiles and despises anyone who would in any way countenance pedophilia, you know? So that's one part of it to me, is that these guys are all using stuff they know is false to work up the people who they think they need to work up to gain political support.
Well, and it's doing just to get a sound bite or like
you're right. The whole
Fox almost doesn't matter thing. What her answer is.
Well, of course it doesn't, which is why they don't let her answer half the time.
Right.
It doesn't matter as long as I get to say what I want to say. So there's no sincerity to any of it. It's all just a charade. Charade? Is it charade or charade? Charade.
I think it's either or situation.
Sherrod Brown, I know, is from Ohio. But so that's just really upsetting to watch, because that means, I mean, that's what I think about is like, here's this person who was elected to be one of the most important political officials in the country, a senator, you know, that's a big deal to be a United States senator. Just ask them. And his idea of what he's supposed to do, and I say he because it's mostly he, although I will say Marsha Blackburn was punching above her weight class. he sits at home and goes, what is it my job to do in this situation? It is my job to take this person who is qualified, competent, professional, decent, upstanding, successful, well-trained, well-informed, well-intentioned. It is my job to make up a bunch of bullshit and see if I can smear them, smear their character, smear their record, and get people to believe stuff about them that's not true. That's my job as a senator.
Or get some sort of emotional response, which she's been incredible.
Yes, but
like, why would that be part of her job?
What should she be? Yeah. And I saw a thing. I didn't read the whole thing, but like, there's a lot of layers to all of this. But there was the moment, and it was a Ted Cruz moment, where Ted Cruz said, what the fuck did he say? I can't even remember what stupid, ignorant question it was that he asked. It was about the racist babies. It was about he said, and I mean, can you imagine, like, there's got to be some level at which you go, I feel like an idiot asking this question. Like,
well, and didn't he have like a visual?
Yeah, he had pictures. He had a big poster board with pictures of racist babies on it. Like, burn. But he said something like, do you agree with the author of this book? And that's the other funny thing to me. It's not funny. That's the other thing that makes me sick to my stomach, is the phrasing of the questions, so that they're asking questions that don't make sense to get a response. Like, so do you agree that because of this has to be true? And it's like, first of all, the first part of your question doesn't even make sense. So no, I don't. And it's all to trap somebody. It's all to trick somebody.
Well, because that way, no matter what she says, it's bad.
But do you agree with the author of this book that babies are racist? Or so it was some ridiculous, stupid, or as my mother would say, stupid question.
Liquid use.
And she said, and she just went, and they've shown it a million times. I'm sure you've seen it. She just goes, Senator. And there's like this 10-year long pause. And
I'm sure she had like,
yeah, it's like, you dumb motherfucker. Like, you stupid piece of shit. Why are you wasting my fucking time?
Right.
And I'm sure she wasn't even thinking any of those things. She was trying to figure out like what exactly was the way to take it apart. Like, which avenue do I go down that's not going to lead to worse things?
Well, and every word is wrong. So like, where do I start?
Right. So she's just sitting there, and somebody wrote an article. I don't even know who it was for. It's somebody who's a commentator on MSNBC, liberal hotbed, saying that pause was like, told you everything you need to know about how much easier it is to be white in that situation than it is to be a black person, because the same sort of thing, and I don't think it was exactly the same sort of thing, and I'm guessing the writer wasn't saying it was exactly the same sort of thing either, where in Brett Kavanaugh's Senate hearing, he was asked questions that he had contempt for, and he let that rip. Like, he was like,
cried.
He cried. He sneered at people. He, do you like beer? Like, are you an alcoholic? Like, all.
Yeah, she couldn't do that.
She couldn't do any of that. She had no recourse in that situation except to take the question seriously, because if she behaved the way that Brett Kavanaugh did, she would be too emotional. She'd be too much of a woman. She'd be too, whatever. There were so many things that could be held against her, whereas Brett Kavanaugh could do whatever the fuck he wanted to because he's a white guy. So he's just allowed to go, you fucking stupid piece of shit.
Right.
dumb Senator Klobuchar or whoever. Charade? Is it Charade or Sherrod? It is Sherrod Brown in Ohio.
Oh, no, we're in a loop.
What? Charade, Senator Charade. But anyway, so that was one thing. And then there's another part of it, which is like, I don't have a lot of friends. That's really what I want to talk about here, is that I don't have a lot. No. I don't have a lot of friends on that side of the fence.
Right.
I don't have a lot of friends who are like, yeah, good job, Ted Cruz. My man knocked it out of the park. But I have some that are of conservative ilk, let's say. And I saw, and it was very hard not to. It's never good to respond to these threads on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. And it was very hard for me not to respond on Facebook, but I didn't. So I was, in that sense, momentarily proud of myself. Yes. But I have a conservative friend who somebody was like, what the fuck is wrong with these guys? What are they doing? Like, these assholes. He said it in much more articulate and kinder language than that. And I have a friend who responded to that and said, this is just payback for the Democratic buffoonery in the last couple of Supreme Court thing, whatever. And it's like, there's so many things. Like, first of all, that's so dismissive of what was going on, that this is just political payback. That's why they got to stand up there and say, you love terrorists, you love criminals, you love pornography from children, not from children, but regarding children. You love, the smear. It's just payback to what happened before. And that's how politics works,
I don't know if that's entirely true, but even if it was, like, don't be proud of that. Like,
well, that's a
whole tactic is like, right. Well, you did it first. Like, how old are you?
Of course. I mean, but I guess my whole thing is like, before we even get to that, it's like, there were, I think, legitimate concerns about Brett Kavanaugh as a candidate for the judgeship. I mean, number one, starting with his conduct while he was in the hearing. Like, he proved to everybody that he was not of a judicial temperament in that moment.
Right.
And then there were also procedural concerns, and there were particularly procedural concerns with the Amy Coney Barrett thing, where we had spent all this time going, we can't nominate someone with a year till an election. That's too soon. Let the voters decide. And I think Amy Coney Barrett was like 3 minutes before the vote or something like that.
Right. It was the same day.
Right. Happy election day, everyone. By the way, Supreme Court, go.
We don't really have a packed day, so can we just move it along?
But then the other part of it is exactly what you're saying, which is like, is payback really the way to run the government? That like you do, and that is exactly what it is, and that's why people are saying, this is not people are saying, the House Republican leadership is saying, just wait till the payback that's going to happen when the House takes back. When the House takes back the House, when the Republicans take back the House in the next election, Biden's going to be impeached. He's going to be impeached twice. He's going to be impeached 3 times, not because he deserves it, but because it's payback. It's
crazy.
It's insane.
It's childish.
It's exacerbating what is already such a difficult situation.
Well, and the whole divide, the political divide in the country. It's crazy to me, and I get it, because that is also how they're keeping their job. But like, to take every opportunity to just widen it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that is a specific political approach. I mean, that was, I think I've said this before, but that was, if I could draw, I would draw a political cartoon, or I would have drawn a political cartoon years ago. And it would just be a picture of the map of the United States with a crack in the middle of it. And Donald Trump would be standing there with a lever, just trying to push the crack farther apart, because that was his whole political strategy, was make the people who hate me more, make the people who hate me hate those people more. It was never about love. It was all about hate. Oh, he's brilliant. He's a genius at that. Very stable genius at that.
You in danger. Blink if he is in the room.
But yeah, I mean, it just was so disheartening to watch the whole thing play out and see just over and over and over again the dumb shit these people were saying, and watching this judge have to answer over and over again in as polite a way as she could muster. Like, that's not what my job is. Like, right. I don't,
it's not my expertise.
I loved when she said, what did she say? I'm not a biologist or something like that.
Because it was like, when does life start?
Or what is a woman? Can you define a woman?
Right.
What? So anyway, it's rough to sit through that stuff. And I did watch quite a bit of it. So I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. But then, it was cool to see Cory Booker at the end, reminding everybody of the upside of everything. And then, like I said, today's March 24th. So there's all this stuff breaking about Clarence Thomas's wife and the text messages she was having, and how he ruled on the tranche of messages. Like, he did not recuse himself, even though this whole thing was about his, among other things, one of the things it was about his wife's messages back and forth with Mark Meadows. So we'll see where that goes. That just broke because it is now March 24th, 7:28 p.m. So we'll see what happens. So that's your weekly dose of long shot politics. Not good. Not a good situation. Checking in. Let's start tonight with Amber.
Sure. Yeah. Jeff and I on Saturday went to the movies together. We haven't done that in quite some time. And
Fast and the Furious, is that what's playing right now? I haven't been in a while.
We went to a matinee and we saw Dog. It's the Channing Tatum movie where he has a dog. But we saw it.
I knew there was I didn't know it was Channing Tatum. Yeah. I knew there was gonna be a dog in there somewhere.
Yeah. Not just a clever name. Mm-hmm. But that is the movie. I don't know if you remember this story, but it's in the height of 2020 lockdown. Mm-hmm. They shot a Channing Tatum movie.
I do remember, of course. How could I forget?
Our window. That is the movie.
Magic Mike.
And so it was fun. And I legitimately got starstruck when I saw, because it was like that's why it was filmed right outside our window, but
you were in the background just peeking through the curtain?
No, it was from our point of view.
Ah.
It's our old apartment because we've moved since then. We've moved one building over. Mm-hmm. But it was like the view out of our living room window was the scene. It was like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. That is cool. So you just recognized it while the scene was going on, and people were like, please keep it down.
Oh yeah, all of the people
trying to watch the matinee of Dog.
Noon. No, there was 2 other people in the theater, or else we would have had it to ourselves. But and just like little details.
So you didn't like stand up and go, hey, you folks, you too. That's that's
basically
moved the corner, but we live there. I was eating lunch right behind that curtain while they filmed this.
Yes. No, I wanted to. I got like emotional. But it was it was 2 scenes, and they were both tiny, of course. Right. They were there for, 4 days, took down street signs. Like, you just see how
this sure is a cool neighborhood. There are some cool people that live around here. I know at least one of them has to have a dog. Don't we want to see if there's any people around here that have a dog?
Well, but yeah, they were there 4 days tons of crew. They shut down the whole street. They had hired cars driving back and forth. They took down the stop sign, like all of this madness. And in the movie, both scenes are probably like a minute total. And it's just like how they spend so much money to make a movie. It's crazy.
And time. Yeah, that is always mind-boggling. Like how much time goes into every single thing. Like it's ridiculous. It is an insane way to be creative.
It's crazy. Well, and I knew that they were coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Not just because that makes sense in the story, but I was like, he had a different outfit on once. I know we're gonna come back.
Hey, dog, you want to go back to that cool neighborhood we went to where there were cool people around that we didn't actually see, but we knew they were there? Let's go, dog. One of these days, I'm gonna give you a name.
It was a perfectly watchable movie. I would not say like run out and see it.
Right. So not a ringing endorsement, but
right.
perfectly watchable, says Amber Kenny.
It was beautiful scenery. Like somehow him and the dog at sunset always happened to be posed really nicely, like against a car. And I was like, wow, they found their light.
Golden hour.
Yes, but I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but I think you're going to, it's one of those where you're like, oh, I see where this is going. But
I got to get rid of this dog. You know what, dog? I think I'm going to keep you after all. That's my summary of the plot. And I have no idea, but I'm guessing that's pretty close.
That's pretty close. But there's another wrinkle on it is the Chan man was in the military and was injured, brain injury. They won't let him come back. He's trying really hard to get like medical clearance to come back because he doesn't have any identity outside of that.
To come back to the army?
The dog was his partner's dog. His partner died. And the dog now has like post-traumatic stress syndrome. And he has to drive the dog across country. Or
there's no personality switch in the middle, is there?
That would be rad as hell. No, but
I would like to come back to the army. Is there any possibility I could come back into the army?
No, but
that private.
It's too much to get into, but basically he agrees to drive this dog from Oregon to the funeral in Arizona, and if he does that, he might have a chance to get what he wants, blah, 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 blah. So the stakes are high, but he doesn't get along with the dog. And
it's a road pick.
Yes. And both of them are so damaged. And, like there would be monologues about like how like, oh, dog, you used to be a hero and what happened to you? And it was really fun because it was such a ill-attended. I would just turn to Jeff and I'd be like, they're the same.
This whole story was based on the relationship between Jack Kerouac and Neil Cassidy. Right?
Yes. But yeah, like it was like very heavy-handed.
Hey dog, what do you say we smoke some more cigarettes, huh? And let's not stop till it gets light outside. I can coast on the hills. That way we'll save gas.
It also, I don't think it was intended for me. It feels like it was a movie made for the middle of America, in the sense that it was like so like
that chunk of America between Oregon and Arizona. That's what it was made for.
No, but it was so pro-military, and he even like goes to a bar in Portland. And like everyone's like, oh, I recycle, and he's like, these weirdos, like
Doug, you think these motherfuckers are Antifa? What do you say we fuck them up?
It was very like,
yeah,
check out these libtards, and I was like, what a funny choice.
Yeah, you gotta.
I guess it was pandering.
You gotta choose your demo,
Yeah, but it was fun to be out of the house.
Yeah.
It was hilarious that we left the house like that. We left Smudgy at home. That was the first time we both left him at home for an extended period of time.
You get home and he's just watching a movie called Person.
Right? I bet they end up together in the end. But it's pretty funny to like finally escape our little dog by going and watching a movie about dogs.
We can't get away. We cannot get away.
And but yeah, it was nice.
Did you get snacks while you were at the? I don't mean to sound like Jamie, but did you get snacks while you were at the movie theater? What's your snack of preference? Snack of choice? What did you end up getting? Like,
great
is
question.
It a ritual, or is it like do you decide in the moment?
There's no set ritual. It's been
but I'm saying like, was there before, or
we used to always get Diet Cokes, popcorn, and peanut M&Ms.
Diet Cokes, popcorn. Okay. Peanut M&Ms. Sure.
But now at AMC, it's fountain. So you could do whatever you want drink wise. You could mix and match.
Nice.
We still got popcorn. It was noon. Like it felt like morning still almost.
Mm-hmm. Noon is very early. My mother called me this morning and she got me at 9:30 in the morning and I was still in bed. And I was like, hello. And she could tell that I was just waking up. And she was like, I thought I'd be safe if I called at 9:30. And I was like, well, you were not. Noon is very early as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I think that's still morning. It's definitely not afternoon.
It is actually. Technically.
Noon is not afternoon.
It's during noon. Yeah.
Guess it's not morning. It's not afternoon. It's just noon. It's just straight up noon.
But we did get drinks and popcorns, and then I got a package of red vines. He's not down with red vines, but I was like, let's do it. But
I'm on his side. I am not a red vine fan.
Are you a Twizzlers fan?
I'm more of a Twizzlers fan than a red vines fan, but I am not. I won't stand for either one.
Wow! Wow!
No.
And then we ate it all. I'm telling you, like every.
No reason to get it unless you're going to eat all of it.
No,
yeah.
Before the trailers were done. Yeah. I was like, oh no, we're monsters. We're just not used to doing things anymore. And it was fun.
Yeah, but no reason to space it out, and I bet they had a policy where you could go get more popcorn if you wanted to.
Yeah, but we didn't.
No, but I'm saying like there's no reason to hold back. If you want more, you can go get more.
And
you could go mix up the sodas. Do you ever mix up the sodas?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
With the
a suicide, we used to call that when I was a kid. Like you get the orange and the Sprite and the Coke all in the same. I don't know what that's called, a suicide. I guess because drinking it is like
death.
I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
It's self-inflicted.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say about all of that? It was weird to have such a big screen and the sound was so loud. Like at first I was like, can they turn it down? We're just sensitive little hermits at this point.
Andy Daly has a funny story about going to see a movie once. I don't even remember what movie, but Quentin Tarantino was right in the front row watching the movie. And when the movie started, Quentin Tarantino, so it's a movie theater full of people. Of course, everybody there knows that it's Quentin Tarantino.
Right.
Movie starts and Quentin Tarantino just turns around and goes, focus. And I just picture you guys. The movie starts and you turn around.
Turn it down.
Volume.
Oh man. But yeah, so it was a fun adventure. Our adventures now are such a small scale.
Totally.
I may have more next week, so tune in.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I may too.
Yeah, anything can happen.
The world is filled with infinite possibilities.
And this is where we are.
It is 7:40 p.m., March 24th. Yeah, Anna, I would like to play another clip from the podcast. I don't exactly. How do you make a podcast? How do you podcast?
I don't have a podcast player.
Is it? I don't know what time it comes on. So I don't have a lot to check in with. Because I didn't even go to the movies this week. I barely made it out of the house a number of times. It's funny though that you're talking about movies and how much time goes into it. So I've spoken a little bit about how I'm trying to make this short film. And I have well, I don't even know how long. I'm trying to get people to do it. I'm trying to get actors who are actors involved.
A name to get some money behind it, some excitement behind it, all of that good stuff.
So I had a meeting with this actor who I'm really interested in having be in it. Yeah. Well, you know how I love meetings. I do meetings all the time.
Was it breakfast?
It was breakfast.
It was?
Yeah, it was. Nice. But a place I had never been to before. It was afternoon breakfast. Yeah.
Wow.
I voted for noon breakfast. I was like, can we do it right at noon and eat very quickly so we're not eating in the afternoon?
But forbidden, no lunch items, no sandwiches, no salads.
There was a broad menu. I've talked about this before, how much I love breakfast food. Like it's my favorite thing.
No, I know.
Aside from,
but breakfast food is just eggs, right?
Wines. Well, yeah, but also the accoutrement, like your bacon, your sausage, your toast, your potatoes, there's also Mexican breakfast where you can have chips and salsa and avocados. And, there's different ways. It's not just about the eggs, basically. Although that is a fundament to it. Yeah. But what's funny about this process to me is just what you're saying, which is the time of it. So like I have this meeting and I pitch this film and this person is like, I'll take a look at the script. Absolutely. It sounds fun. So I give them the script and then they look at the script and then they're like, I have some questions. So like a week later, I get a phone call and we talk through all the questions. And then it's like, what if we got this other person involved to do it with? Because I've always wanted to do something with that person. I'm like, great, let's try to do that. So, okay, do a rewrite of the thing. Anyway, it just becomes this elaborate process. And I understand that is the process. But it is also funny to me, having not done this before, where I'm like, if I've done, this is not to brag, but I've done one-person shows. If I want to do a one-person show, I just go, I want to do the show. I wrote it. I'm rehearsing it. I got somebody to direct it and I'm doing it. And this is the theater I'm doing it at. And will you come to see it?
The hardest part is like getting a date.
This is not that. This is not that. This is a lot of like reaching out and getting this. And what if it was like this? And what if
we can't take the next step because we have to hear back about this.
No. I mean, the biggest thing to me right now is scheduling. Like, when can we do this? And I can't do that until I have commitments as far as the people involved as actors versus getting cinematographer, producer, all of these things don't fall into place until the dates fall into place, which don't fall into place. So it's very much. It's like
you can't schedule it till you know who's in it, but you can't know who's in it till you schedule it.
And I don't have the capacity to go, come on, what the fuck? Let's go. Let's do this, because I'm not.
You don't have the power.
Yeah. I'm like, I hope this works out, but we'll see. And I want to be as accommodating as possible because these people are doing it. They're doing it. I don't want to say it's a favor to me, but it's pretty fucking close to that, you know?
You're indebted to them.
So there's not a way to go, let's go. Come on. This is it.
No, you have to be nothing but patient and thankful. And you talking about like, come on, let's go. Made me think of Tom Cruise and that.
That is fucking weird because that is who I had breakfast with that I'm trying to get to do.
Holy shit. Yeah, you should get him. He's a pretty big name. But you've seen that video where he was screaming at people for the COVID protocols on set?
I think so. Yeah. I think a while ago I saw
that. Is like, it just was the exact opposite. Like, he has all of the power. He can talk to people whoever he wants.
He was trying to get people to pay attention to the COVID stuff, right?
Yes. He was on the right side, but he was doing it in a very intense way.
Like I already was on the Cruz train because of
you should say Cruz. Come on.
Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, but that made me more on the that made me more on the Cruz drive. So anyway, I'm in this weird holding pattern.
Limbo.
Yeah. And it's a thing where now I'm in a situation, and this is just, well, I will say there's a great, I can't remember which book it is, but there's a book by William Goldman called Adventures in the Screen Trade. And then he wrote another one that was a follow-up to that were just stories about working in Hollywood. I mean, he's the one who famously said, nobody knows anything. He's written a bunch of screenplays. He wrote like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but also the great Waldo Pepper, which was a failure. Like he's written very successful stuff that didn't succeed, but he's just been through it all. He supposedly was, by the way, I'm saying he did all this stuff. I don't even know. I'm embarrassed to say right now, I'm not even sure if he's still alive. And I would actually be surprised if he was, because Adventures in the Screen Trade probably came out, I don't know, 30 years ago at this point. But in one of his, supposedly he was the one who came in and did a rewrite of Good Will Hunting, uncredited rewrite. And so Affleck and Damon's original script supposedly was all about the NSA, and Matt Damon's character was like a code breaker that they needed for spy stuff and all this stuff. And Goldman came in and said, get rid of all that shit, make it about this. And he brought in what eventually became the Robin Williams character. That was his. So what was the movie? But I mean, that's the nature of screenwriting, is like, it's still their script because it was their original idea. And he agreed. I mean, he probably got paid $8 billion to rewrite it and not take credit on it and let these scrappy young kids from Massachusetts get all the credit. Stars. Yeah. But anyway, he tells a whole story, and I don't remember really, as with most of the things I talk about on this show and ever in life, I really don't remember most of the specifics, but he talks in one of his books. He has a whole long story about a movie called The Ghost and the Darkness. Do you remember that movie at all?
It sounds really familiar.
I definitely saw it back in the day, but I don't really remember it. And it's basically the story of, it's based on a true story, I think, in the early, I want to say like late 1800s, early 1900s. There's like a British, might be the East India Company, I don't remember. They're, I think, in Africa building a rail line. And there are two lions that keep killing people who are working on the rails.
Yes.
And they bring in, I don't remember the specifics, but somebody is there supervising, which I think in the movie is Val Kilmer. And then they bring in a great white hunter to come in and kill the lions. And in the movie, that's Michael Douglas. And so his whole point in the story is, once you get Michael Douglas involved, the entire project completely changes, because now you have this movie star involved, and he's going to go, I want it like this, and I want my character to be this, and I want to play this character, not that character, and I want this character to be more. And so,
and he's got to save the day. Like it
right. Like he has to be the good guy, and he can't have flaws the way he did in the original version, and
or he has to be a larger part instead of just somebody who comes in and comes out.
It's definitely very much about protecting the movie star's image in terms of being a movie star, which I think actually has become less of a thing over the last 25 years, but for a long time that was very much a thing. Like, you had to see the movie star as the romantic hero, and they could never, once somebody played an asshole, that was it. They were an asshole for the rest of their career.
Now it's almost like people are trying to, it's like
showing off your muscles.
Range.
Like when Cruz was in Ghost Protocol, but he's also in Magnolia, which is like a very different,
so different,
But anyway, my point is, this is absolutely not anything like that, but I feel like it relates to that a little bit.
Now your project is sort of steered by.
I'm trying to figure all this stuff out as I'm doing it, and you just have to kind of go with the flow, you know.
Who does Tom Cruise really want to work with?
It's interesting. It's an interesting
Leah Remini
situation. No, he actually doesn't. He's mad at her for what she's done about Scientology.
I just thought it might be an interesting on-screen chemistry.
No, he wants to work with, oddly, he wants to work with Kevin, what's his name? Kevin James. Yeah. He's very anti-Leah Remini, but he's very pro Kevin James.
Well, it's probably to stick it to her a little bit too.
Folks, if you're listening, Leah Remini and Kevin James were on a sitcom together for quite some time.
If you're listening.
And by the way, if you're listening, it is 7:51 p.m. on March 24th. This is where I am.
I'm in Los Angeles.
I have visual proof that I am in front of my blinds.
This is not a green screen behind me.
As far as you know.
Yeah, it looks like your blinds are fixed. It's really the sun going down.
It's just the sun. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can only see it. You can only, it's so
well, it was
tiny.
probably setting too, so it was really shooting in.
Setting, but it sets on the other side of the building.
Huh.
So there goes that theory.
They built, basically for 3 years, they've been building this hideous condo building across the street from us. And we've got to hear it the entire time we were in lockdown. But I say it's hideous. Maybe some people would be into it, but I stand pretty firmly with the hideous. Like, like the uber modern aesthetic isn't for me, where it's like, isn't it cool? It's a box. It's like, no, be a house. What are you doing? But it's bright white, like bright white. And so the other day we were in the living room and Jeff was like, I'm getting blinded. What is happening? Because the sun should be opposite. And I said, it's basically a giant bounce board. Like, now the sun is coming in from that stupid building. Anyway.
But the good side of that is
lighting.
Dog 2, they'll be back.
Right. They got to.
I hear there's a great place we can film right around the corner.
But now Smudgy will want in. Yeah, he wasn't born last time.
He could be an extra. But anyway, it's been good in terms of trying, and I am not good at this. You may have noticed that I am not good at this. It's been good in terms of trying to be patient and not be emotionally reactive to every single thing that happens, because my immediate thing is to go, oh no, that's the worst thing that could happen. That's the best thing that could happen. That's the worst thing that could happen. Or also like,
let's call it all off. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Too hard. Forget it.
Like everything that happens, I'm like, oh no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this instead. And it's like,
you kind of have to just let go with the flow a little bit.
And also nothing is set in stone. So you just don't know how it's going to play out. So just let things play out a little bit instead of immediately being convinced this is the worst way it could go.
Well, and I'm sure this is complicated because I don't know where the line is and I'm not successful in any way, but like to be successful.
Oh, me too, my friend.
To be successful and have an artistic voice, like you do have to have a certain amount of integrity and vision for your project, but then also that flexibility and the going with the flow. So it's like knowing which battles.
What are the things that are worth fighting for? Yeah. Absolutely.
And you don't want to,
huge part of it.
You don't want to fight for some, like blow your load on fighting for something that you're like, oh, actually that wasn't as important as this next thing.
Right. And then somebody's like, dude, you fucking blew your load all over that.
Right. All over Tom Cruise.
You blew your load all over Tom Cruise. And now Kevin James is like, where's my load?
I can't wait to see this movie.
But yeah, you're right. Like it is, you have to pick. It's that dumb expression of you have to pick your battles.
Right.
Because there's definitely going to be lots of stuff. And it's like, am I still getting what I want from this specific project or not?
Well, and just saying yes to every single thing and note isn't a great way to work either, because then it will be this like lacking focus.
Right. Then what are you even doing?
Yeah.
I mean, that already happened once where not that, but the original thing happened once where we had a long discussion about it. Like, what if this was one of the people doing the thing? And I really had to sit down and think about it. Like, does that still get across the idea that I'm trying to get across here? And it took me a long time to come to the conclusion that yes, it did, but it just wasn't your initial. It definitely wasn't my initial thing. And I had put a lot of thought into my initial thing. And I was like, I get where you're coming from, but I don't see it that way. But let me think about it and see if there's a way I can see it that way. And then we'll move forward from there. And that's basically what happened. And I think that's going to be ultimately really good for the project, you know? What I'm saying is I think I'm doing a great job. So anyway, that's what's going on with me. That's me old checking in at 7:56 p.m. Thursday evening. Why don't we take a break and then we'll come back and we'll do parting shots.
Sounds good.
All right.
We're recording. We're back. It's the Long Sean podcast.
That's what they call me. And I'm not going to get into why.
Oh boy. We're back. You know what you're listening to. It's March 24th. It's 8:04 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
And you do the math.
Right. It's time for a segment we call Parting Shots. So I'll go first tonight. I have 2 parting shots. And the first one is, I guess they're sort of related, maybe. I don't know. But I got an email, or I don't remember what it was, an email or a message on Instagram or a Facebook DM or a splatter post or a riptide, or I don't remember what it was, but from, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, not you, but I think it was from Scott Waterhouse down
so
under.
I don't correct you. What's happening?
No, because you don't know what I'm talking about.
So
you have no idea.
Who are you talking to?
I'm saying he should correct me if I'm wrong, because I know he listens to the show, and I think it was from him, and it was a complaint about my newsletter that I send out on a regular basis. And the complaint was basically that it is illegible, that he does not enjoy the way that
like the layout itself? The
layout is designed. And I want him to know, if it was him or whoever it was, I want them to know your complaint has been heard, and I have submitted it to the design department. Yeah. And we're working on solving the issues that you have with the design, because he was very, as people tend to be, very effusively complimentary about what he was reading. He was just complaining that it is difficult to read in the way. And he even went so far as to post side by side photos of like another email versus my email, and how the other one was great in terms of how it looked, and mine was terrible, but the other one, I don't think he said the other one has terrible content and yours has great content.
Yeah, but it was implied.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a thing that I've done for, I don't know, a year and a half now, and I just did it the first time I did it, and I was like, this is how I'm doing it from now on. And so I get it. I want it to be something that the less hurdles, the better. You know,
right.
The less difficult it is for people, the better, because what I would hate is for somebody to go, I'm not that interested in the content, but it's fine. But fuck the way this looks. I am not reading this. I'm unsubscribing. So anyway, I've heard you, and then I also just coincidentally, if in fact it was Scott, I just saw that Scott posted in the Facebook group a photo of that basically explains the story I told last week. Like he posted a couple of Google Street photos that go through what it was like for me going through that mall parking lot that I talked about for 4 hours last week. And I think there is, even in the background of the picture, you can see the place that I refer to as a clip joint that is the most expensive little bodega in Hollywood. So that's my first parting shot is I hear you and I am listening and we'll see what happens with the design department. But
you keep saying we hear you, and it makes me think of Succession when they said we hear for you. I love it so much.
I will say dumb sign jokes are one of my favorite things. Yeah. Like I wrote for a show years ago called Players, which was on Spike TV. And we did an episode where there was it was just about a bar, but it was like a Cheers almost kind of place. And there was a guy who hung out at the bar played by, what's his name? Great actor, Jack. It'll come to me. But a guy you would definitely no, he was the father in The Fighter with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, where Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch played a boxer whose brother, Christian Bale, was the brother. They definitely won at least one Academy Award for it. Anyway, Jack was great. And he, in this episode, it was Hall of Fame voting day, and he wanted Pete Rose to get in the Hall of Fame. And he was so worked up about it, and he was drunk, and he punched a mirror and whatever. And then he wrote, and I can't remember what the word was, but he wrote some word in blood on his chest, and I had him misspell the word. And the rest of the episode, people were just like, you spell, like, it was like he wrote fame and he wrote it FAEM. And the rest of the episode, people were just coming up to him going, instead of being like, you're covered in blood and you have no shirt on, they were just like, you spelled fame wrong, right? Like it doesn't. So I'm a huge fan of like anything to do with jokes about signs like that. So we hear you. We hear for you, Scott.
Yes.
So that's one thing. And then the other thing, which I said was sort of maybe tangentially related, I don't know. But I went to that book signing last week.
Oh, right. Did you remember what it was called on air, or was it after we were done?
I did it on air. We said it on air. Yes, I texted the thing, but yeah. But just being in that bookstore, it's an independent bookstore.
Is it Skylight?
No, it was Chevalier Books down on Larchmont. And it just reminded me of how much I love being in bookstores. Like I used to joke about how I couldn't walk out of a bookstore without buying at least 3 or 4 different things back in the day when you would go to the bookstore.
Right.
And then Barnes and Noble opened. I mean, this is a long time ago. And then Barnes and Noble was everywhere the way that Starbucks was everywhere. They combined, but it was like,
and Starbucks won.
Amazon won, unfortunately. Yeah, anyway, just being there and seeing like they had little handmade signs in each section that was like mystery thriller or biography or staff picks, and like,
I love the staff picks.
All of that stuff. It just, I didn't stay that night because they were closing. They were basically kicking us out at the end of this reading, but I want to go back there just to support them. And part of me is like, let's say I try to make this is extreme example, which I don't think is going to happen, but let's say I try to make this short film and it falls apart and my entire life falls apart because of it. Like I just go down go down in flames. I have no career anymore, whatever.
You're ridiculed, you're shunned from the community.
Right. Like I go to like Paramount lot and they won't let me on the lot. And the guy's like,
Get out
sorry.
of here.
Well, before that guy comes over, there's another guy at the gate who's like, I understand, Mr. Conroy, but I'm very sorry. Your name's on a list here that says you're forbidden to come inside. I'm not allowed to let you on the lot. It would be nice if I could, because you've always been good to me. You always had nice things to say to me. You always say hello. You call me by my name. You know what my name is, right?
The bar is so low. You acknowledge me as a person.
Yeah. Every day you come in and you're like, hey, Ralph. And I'm Ralph. And I'm like, that's me. And Wowie. I like that. Yeah. So I'd love to let you in, but I got express directions that I ain't supposed to let you in. They said if he comes, do not let him in. His career is over. And a matter of fact, if I was you, I'd go home, I'd pack up my shit, and I'd move to a different town, because you ain't gonna make no movies no more. So if that happens,
which is pretty likely, right?
It could, except honestly, I don't know the name of the guy at Paramount that I drive by every day. So that part of it won't happen.
You go there every day?
Just as a drive-by. I'm like, I could open a bookstore and be content, I could be content with just a brick and mortar, like every day going in and like rearranging stacks of books and going, this is one, I see the way you're dressed. I feel like this might be right up your alley. This might be something that would appeal to you. Open it, take a look, read the first couple pages. If you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. No. You don't even have to. No money involved before you read the first couple of pages. We don't do the look inside thing they do on Amazon. We actually let you look inside the actual physical book. So take it, take a look, see what you think. And by the way, we do have coffee and donuts up front. There's a little cup there that you can donate. And I hope someday to get back to Hollywood and make a movie.
Seems, like you're not going to be making a ton of money in this bookstore.
So anyway, I miss bookstores, basically. I guess it's the gist of it. Parting shots, Amber.
Wait, before, I guess this could be part of it, but this isn't an official parting shot. It's a tag on to what you were saying, but you've been mentioning Amazon quite a bit. And when I went to the movies, we went to the Americana, which is basically an outdoor mall in Glendale. And there is a big, I obviously haven't been there in quite some time, but there was a big Forever 21 that is no longer a Forever 21. Don't tell me it's like finally 22. No, it's like Amazon garments or something like that. That might not be the right word, but I was like, what the? Like, they drove brick and mortar businesses out of business.
And now they're taking over them again?
It's very strange. But
fucking Bezos, man. What an evil genius.
Yep. Jeff was like, I think they're just basically a logistics company now. And so like that's a place to make XYZ more efficient, or I don't know.
Amazon Garments. We're a logistics company now.
But that was not my parting shot.
We make logistics.
My parting shot is, I've mentioned this before, big on baths. I'm into bath rituals.
Yeah.
I took a bath on Sunday. Needed it. Last Thursday we were talking, was feeling pretty down. And it feels like it just is sort of waiting, like today.
The bath or the down?
The down. I mean, like, the stuff is not great, but I mean, it felt like a physical depression that I couldn't shake. And it was actually it was upsetting in the sense that I have tools now. Like I have yoga, I have meditation, I have walks, I have baths, I have journaling. I do shit to try to prevent this, and I couldn't get rid of it. And so it was almost more frustrating, because it would be one thing if I was like, a depressed person acting like a depressed person. I'm like, I'm doing the things that are supposed to help. Like,
I always say it's almost more depressing when your depression is depressing than it is when you're just depressed.
But so all of that said, I was taking a bath. I was trying to
splish splash. You were taking a bath?
Yes. I just have a lot of tension in my body. I was trying to get rid of it, trying to release, trying to disconnect from work stress. And I put on like a guided, it wasn't even a meditation. It was like a guided wisdom on this meditation app I have. And I picked it at random. And it started, and it was all about social media. I am a social media manager. Not a great way for me to stop thinking about work.
Right.
But it was all about how, your perception of what someone's life is like from social media might not be accurate. Stuff, first I heard that. So that goes on, and it's like, it's a fair point. It's a good point. I'm still listening. And then it goes on to say, that is why I've always loved the movie Shrek. So I am the social media manager for DreamWorks Animation. And this meditation is talking about social media and DreamWorks Animation. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, I can't get away. I thought it was hilarious. All of a sudden
it starts going, hey now, you're an all-star.
But I thought it was insane, like, and really funny. And I got out of
the bath. Like a prank almost.
100%. And I got out of the bath and I told Jeff that story, and his reaction was like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, like, it's funny. And then I told work colleagues the story, and their reaction was like, we got to activate on that. And I was like, no, like, just laugh at it with me. Like, how is no one getting the exact right response?
That sounds burdensome. When you were talking, it made me think that you were going to say, it didn't make me think you were really going to say this, but I thought of this. You were going to say, I put on a guided tour of, and then it would just be like the Van Gogh display from the New York.
That sounds kind of cool.
But I just think that would be hilarious to be not there, but you're listening to somebody who's like, and then over here, Van Gogh was clearly very sad about this haystack in the field and paint, I guess it could be transportive in a sense.
Yeah, I bet they have things like that on the listen to this to fall asleep section.
Right. And so, as you can see, Van Gogh was gazing into the distance and fall asleep. And he was thinking to himself, fall asleep. Gary, your fall asleep tapes are just not working for anything.
They're a little too on the nose.
Yeah, they're not. You can't just say it.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that does it for us for this episode.
I think we did a great job. It's 8/21. March 24th.
Thursday night.
2022.
Yana, I would like to point out that there's no way this podcast could have been created had my client not been in attendance the entire time.
If it were a Columbo episode, it would have been some like convoluted thing where you were there at the beginning of the podcast and the end.
I've always thought about that. Like, this was the other thing I was going to say when I was talking about bookstores before, was like, it made me want to write a book. Like, just looking around and seeing all those books, I was like, I want to write a book.
You don't have enough projects going.
Right. But one idea I always had was a stand-up comic who was a feature. So a feature is when you have your host of the show who goes up and does 10 minutes, then the feature does 20 minutes, then the headliner does 45 minutes to an hour, and that's the end of the show. And my idea was that there would be a serial killer traveling around the country as a feature. So after he gets off stage for the 20-minute set, He then goes off somewhere into the town, murders someone, and comes back and is sitting in the green room at the end of the show.
Great joke about
and knows the act so well that he can go like, I really like this.
But he gets caught the time that the headliner doesn't tell the joke that he comments on or something. Ooh, I like that.
So that'll be my next project, and it's called Feature for Murder. All right, folks, this has been The Long Shot. We'll see you next time.
Be well.
Lockhart does not miss me like he said 1,000 times. There best not be a pigeon over there. Born again, my left foot, I've seen saner men than you. Camp and eventually crumble. Camp and eventually crumble. Camp and eventually crumble. Just like you will soon. Don't call me the ex-treasurer. It does not mean a thing. You best not come crawling back to plea. And don't, my darling, shiver when your fur collection flees. 'Cause who in their right mind could love you? Who in their right mind could love you? Who in their right mind could love you? Certainly not me. Change a thing. You just don't have the capacity to make these little critters sing, and I don't have the time to get this leaking faucet off my mind. Does not love me, I guess I should face the facts. He told me he would never disappear quite like that. If the forest catches fire, or the hair's all up in go, how long in this town could I last? How long in this town would I last? How long in this town could I last? Till everybody knows. And since there's no one left in this town, I'm going down where the clingers and the cats hang out. And soon I'll be crowned the king of the horses, or the king of the torches. When I pay off my mortgage, I will be better off. So flock hard,